Okay, so we're going to fill out our definition of what a rate is. So that's up at the top in this box. A rate is a ratio, so we want to start filling this out with me, that compares two different quantities. So a ratio that compares two different quantities. And so this is what we've kind of been doing all along. But in quantities, it's more of something that can be measured. Like, I wouldn't say that a rate is comparing 5 books and 3 pens. That's not really a rate. For example, a rate would be something like this: 10 miles in 4 hours, or 10 miles to 4 hours. Those are two different kind of measurements, right? Maybe units would be another way to describe this. Books are just like physical things, right? But when we go miles and hours, that turns into a rate, right? Or words per minute, or calories per serving. There's kind of like a rate behind that, an amount. And so that is a rate. So we can compare any two different units. They don't need to be in the same unit because they're not measuring the same thing, right? Miles is measuring distance. Hours is measuring time. So I can't convert those into the same thing. Now, if I was comparing 2 hours and 60 minutes, then yeah, I would need them to be the same unit, right? They're both a measurement of time. But for today, we don't need to worry about that. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a unit rate. That's where we're headed today. So a unit rate is a special type of rate. This one has a denominator. So this blank right here, this has a denominator of 1. So for example, going back to that 10 miles to 4 hours, if I'm going 10 miles in 4 hours, I would want to know, well, how many miles am I going in 1 hour, right? And so in order to change any given rate to a unit rate, all we need to do is divide the numerator by the denominator. And I'll show you why here in a second. So my directions here: express each rate as a unit rate. We can round to the nearest tenth. Does anyone know how many decimals is tenth? How many decimal places if I'm rounding to the nearest tenth?
No, 1.
1, right? So the ones place is right here. So just like how the tens place would be right here, the tenths place is 1 behind the 0. Okay, 1 behind the ones place. Okay, so tenth is 1 decimal. So let's go ahead and do that. So for number 1, I give you 364 miles in 7 hours. I want you to tell me the unit rate, meaning how many miles in 1 hour. So we can do this pretty easily. We can take 364 miles and divide that by 7 hours. And when I divide, I get an answer of 52. I get a nice whole number. We're not always going to get a whole number, but that's okay. So notice how this time I am not reducing, I am dividing, okay? And so I get 52. What is the denominator of 52? What is my secret denominator here? A 1, which is what I want, right? I want every single number that I get is some number over 1, because I'm saying that I'm going 52 miles in 1 hour, right? My units are still consistent, miles over hour. But the way that I want us to write this is like this: 52 miles slash hour. And off to the side here, we have a box. We want to write rates using the symbol, the slash symbol. This is read as per, P-E-R. 52 miles per hour. That is a rate. For the next example, yards per second, calories per serving, students per class. All of those things are rates. We're trying to get down to 1 in the denominator. So let's try that with number 2. So 50 yards in 6.4 seconds. So we have 50 yards divided by 6.4 seconds. So when I divide those two, I get an answer of 7.8, rounding to 1 decimal place. What is the number in my denominator here? When I divide those two, right, that's what my instructions are, 1, right, which is what I want. So I want 1 number on the top, 1 on the bottom. So this is 7.8 yards per 1 second, or just per second, right? So we don't need to write the 1. This is the last time I'm going to do that. But I want us to know that I'm not reducing, right? I'm not leaving my answer as a fraction with a number on the top and on the bottom. I want the number on the bottom to be 1. In other words, I want it to go away. I'm turning it into 1 unit. Okay, so number 3, 210 words in 6 minutes. So 210 divided by 6. 210 divided by 6 gives me 35 words per 1 minute. And this makes sense, right? If it takes 35 words for 1 minute, then when I multiply that up, right, I get 210 words in 6 minutes. So sometimes it's important to know just the unit rate, just 1 unit. Okay, 232 students in 8 classes. So we're going to take 232 divided by 8. So I get an answer of 29 students per class. Okay, that's also helpful. This is also kind of like finding the average here, right? On average, there would be 29 students per class if there were 232 in 8. And then let's do one more together. 5 inches of rain in 3 days. So we can say 5 inches divided by 3 days. So 5 divided by 3, rounding, gives me 1.7. We may also, because right there, it's 1.66. So the number next to it bumps that up to a 7. So 1.7 inches per day. Good. And so if you're again wondering, how am I getting my units? The first unit goes first, so inches. And then I put the slash, which is read as per. And then the second unit is days. So first word, second word. And then the slash goes in between them. Okay, so I want you to try 6, 7, and 8 now. Again, giving me that final number once you divide and giving me the unit. We also need to make sure our unit is there.